and welcome to God Hour Live, July 22nd. Oh, what a long, hot July 22nd it's been here in Lower Alabama. Uh, that being said, our scripture portion of God Hour tonight is going to be focused on Isaiah 43. Which gets us in the home stretch, I suppose, for the entirety of Isaiah. To kind of recap what I've learned, observed, and discerned, well, A, God has tremendous power and capability of making odds that seem so unfavorable as to be impossible. Also, he has a ferocious anger. Yet, he maintains a father's love, an unconditional love for his children. And that he can never, or he doesn't ever, I suppose he could, but he never completely writes us off. And in this case, I'm referring to us as his people, but that would have been the Jewish people because Christ had not been born yet. So obviously there were no Christians at that point. On the other hand, there were people waiting for a Messiah, for a Christ, because Christ is not a name, it's a title. And, God's last name isn't Christ, and therefore his son was named after Mr. and Mrs. Christ if they were married. No, Christ. That's when you sometimes hear Christ Jesus or Jesus Christ or the Christ. Where Jesus is also a Hebrew name with meaning in it, but there's no reason, and indeed people are named Jesus or Jesus, but they aren't named Christ, just as you wouldn't name somebody doctor or, what have you. So God's destroyed many of the nations as a result of people forgetting about him, having to send reminders to the Jewish people over and over and over again. From the beginning, from the absolute beginning of the Bible, the story of Noah, which I'm sure everybody's somewhat familiar with, all the way through, Revelation, which will be the final reckoning, but we're not getting into that. We're focused on Isaiah and how this king, this Assyrian king, had destroyed many cities without any trouble whatsoever. But then came upon King Hezekiah's city, Jerusalem, presumably. But I just got home from work. That's why I'm laying down. I've been on my feet 12 hours or so. So despite that army having high morale, I would think, all these victories, suddenly 5,180 soldiers were killed in the middle of the night by the angel of the Lord. And indeed, the king of Assyria did not so much as shoot an arrow into King Hezekiah's city. And, as prophesied, went back home and died there by the sword and by his sons. And that's kind of where we're at in Isaiah. So, if you will indulge me, let me read from the book, King James Version, as is my wont. Verse 1 of chapter 43. But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. For I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. I gave Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for thee. Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even every one that is called by my name. For I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him. King James Version being what it is. I didn't create it. He's telling, he's rewarding them, he's promising them, Jacob, particularly Jacob, and Israel. But not just them, everybody that comes into the future. That's me and you, like today. My sons from far and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even every one that is called by my name. For I have created him for my glory, I have formed him, yea, I have made him. And very importantly, he mentions forgiveness. It's not saying that they were free of sin, but that he's erasing those sins. Let me read on a little bit to verse 8. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears. Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this, and shew us former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses, that they may be justified, or let them hear and say, it is truth. Ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. I, even I, am the Lord, and beside me there is no Savior. I have declared, and I have saved, and I have shewed, when there was no strange God among you. Therefore ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, that I am God. Yea, before the day was, I am he, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. I will work, and who shall let it? It's just a kind of translated way of saying, and who will stop me? I will work, and who shall let it? I'm not asking anybody's permission to do what I do. It's what I'm gathering the Lord is saying. But keep in mind, I'm not a pastor, priest, bishop, cardinal, saint, reverend, minister, none of that. I'm just a guy, a sinner, and a Christian. There was a verse in here, I'll get to it, but I perused it a little bit, that emphasizes the sins being, forgiven. We'll get there. Let me continue to read. I know it sounds dry, There's a lot to it. It doesn't make sense in an English language perspective, but it wasn't written in English, so you can't fault the grammar and the redundancies and the meanings that just simply didn't exist or didn't transpose. It's like if you were playing a song in a 4/4 common tempo, common beat, and then try to make it into a waltz, a 3/4. You just can't do it. You have to rewrite the whole piece, and then you get things like this, translation artifacts, if you will. Just like you wouldn't be able to translate the phrase, "Do you see what I'm saying?" which is a very common phrase here in Alabama. But I had some Muslim friends that when I would say that, they would laugh because it made no sense translated. Do you see what I'm saying? No, I cannot see the sounds. So translation being what it is, that's the reason we need prayer and discernment, and also fellowship, outside perspectives. You can't just be born, be given a Bible, and expected to figure it out. You have to ask questions. It doesn't just apply to religion. But let's move to the fall of Babylon, which is the next verse, 14. Thus saith the Lord, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake I have sent to Babylon, and have brought down all their nobles, and the Chaldeans, whose cry is in the ships. I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. And again, that's the repetitive redundancy that I was mentioning. And from what I know of ancient Hebrew, which is very little, that they would emphasize things by repeating them, but also one simple word would mean like a whole sentence, such as, I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. That might just be a single word. That may be the translation of Yahweh, for all I know. I don't claim to be anything like fluent in any other language than English. In any case, thus saith the Lord, which maketh the way in the sea, and the path in the mighty waters, which bringeth forth the chariot and horse, the army and the power. They shall lie down together, they shall not rise. They are extinct, they are quenched as tow. I'm not sure if that's towel or tow, but T-O-W, which it's a good word to look up and get an actual definition for, because I'm not familiar with that phrase. So if you look at tow, biblical meanings, what we're going to Google. In the Bible, tow refers to the short, coarse fibers of flax or hemp left after the spinning process. Kind of like chaff, I guess. Worthless byproduct. Something like that. Now, I don't have a translation, a pronunciation guide. I need that. So, can you not tell me what Webster's thinks about it? I do not care for AI. Yeah, I'm very familiar with towing. I feel like it's probably towel. In Hebrew, Neoreth, Neoreth. It's funny that this dictionary says T-O-W, pronunciation, Neoreth. But I'm just going to assume it's like bow shoots arrows, bow is when you bend your hips in respect. Or the front of a ship. They're spelled the same. I believe that's called a homograph. It's spelled the same, it sounds different. As opposed to a homonym that sound the same but mean different. But I digress, obviously. I digress very far. Fall of Babylon is what we were talking about. And quenched as Tal, which maketh the way in the sea, and a path in the mighty waters, bringeth forth the chariot and horse, the army and the power, and they shall lie down together, they shall not rise. He destroys, extinguishes, all of that, makes them extinct and quenched as Tal. It's also worth noting that quenched, Tal was known to be highly flammable, according to what I've just read here. The byproduct of spinning flax. It's also kindling, so they are quenched as Tal. I don't know. I got a personal interest in language and etymologies. Verse 18, remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth, shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The beasts of the field shall honor me, the dragons and the owls, because I give waters in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Again, there's that repetitive King James stuff. Rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen. This people have I formed for myself. They shall shew forth my praise. So God wants, would hope. But he doesn't force that. That's the essence of free will, is we don't have to worship God. We don't have to believe in him. We have to decide to do that. Verse 22, but thou hast not called upon me, O Jacob, but thou hast been weary of me, O Israel. Thou hast not brought me the small cattle of thy burnt offerings, neither hast thou honored me with thy sacrifices. I have not caused thee to serve with an offering, nor wearied thee with incense. It's kind of what I was saying. God didn't make them do any sacrifices, but he's noticed, thou hast bought me no sweet cane with money, neither hast thou filled me with the fat of thy sacrifices. But thou hast made me to serve with thy sins. Thou hast wearied me with thine iniquities. This is the beautiful part of it. Like, from the get-go in this chapter, he's praising Israel and Jacob, which are respectively 10 and 2 of the tribes that form Judaism, original Jewish tribes. But as many times before, they've started to neglect their offerings and became complacent, and even in many cases started worshiping things they created. And yeah, we can draw a parallel to modern life with that. But in any case, despite them not bringing the sacrifices, the burnt offerings, the incense, and actually wearied God. I mean, God is tireless, but it's pretty sad that they have, you know, wearied God. You know, how would you define weary? You're so accustomed to things going wrong, you know, your job maybe the same drudgery every day, it becomes wearisome, but you still get up and go do it. Or your children are loud and fighting, but you put up with it, you know, they wear you. They don't physically destroy you or wear you out. I mean, I guess kids do and jobs can, but this is an emotional state of God. That alone is pretty significant, I would think, that God has emotion. Not just anger and such. I think that God has a sense of humor. He clearly has expressed a sense of weariness. Definitely has a sense of anger. And creativity. He's an artist. I mean, he's the original artist. He created everything. He created creation. But to read the last little paragraph, last passage, verse 25. I, even I, am he that blotteth out thy transgressions for mine own sake, and will not remember thy sins. Put me in remembrance. Let us plead together. Declare thou that thou mayest be justified. Thy first father hath sinned, and thy teachers have transgressed against me. Therefore I have profaned the princes of the sanctuary, and have given Jacob to the curse, and Israel to reproaches. And that's a good point. Something to make note of. The very first father of mankind, mortal, sinned. The very first person to die was murdered by a man, a brother nonetheless. That just hits me. I've always heard it, but I never really thought about it, that the first person to ever die in recorded scripture was the victim of a homicide, fratricide even, kinslayer. But even so, God has mercy, unconditional love, in the sense of, like I can only imagine. I don't have any kids, so I can't say I understand entirely the love for one's children. But I do know the love for my mother, which is unconditional. And I can kind of empathize if it were reversed. So on that note, that's as far as I can understand unconditional love for one's children. Except that I experience it from God as I experienced it from my own mother. I mean, she was with me when I was not nearly as, I'm not going to say I'm a good person, but I was doing all kind of crazy stuff to have her grow weary of mine antics. In any case, there is the scripture reading. Yes, my friend, I have had a bad day, rough day, but I feel better now. This book does that for me. It's magical in a sense. Um, what really got my goat today is somebody challenged me. So recently, I lost my house. It burnt up. I lost everything I owned. And that barely phased me. I'm not going to lie. That'd be insane to say it didn't phase me. But out of nowhere this week, I had something like $470 a month uh, added to my bills for the foreseeable future. I didn't get a $470 a month raise, uh, but as it turns out, I'll be having to come up with an extra, let's call it $500 a month, and that's going to require some help from the Lord. And someone challenged my faith and said, well, you're the one always preaching to trust in God. And I do. But God doesn't just give you anything for the heck of it, you know. Now, it could be very well be that I find $500 in my bank account tomorrow. But God expects me to also work for it, to earn the extra money I need. It's not just going to magically appear. And then the next month. So I've been stressing over finding some extra overtime, extra ways to trim other bills. So that's had me in kind of a mental frenzy, or, I brought a thing of peanut butter and jelly with me to work instead of having fast food or something like that. That's what it's going to take for me to take care of these unforeseen expenses. I mean, but I know I'll be taken care of because I know, and God has shown me that He's going to take care of me. But He's not going to do it if I, sit. I don't want to get, vulgar, but if I sit on my ass complaining that I need more money, it's not just going to be given to me. At least not by God. I might find that money through other means very easily. And these expenditures, these bills that are stacked up, from this doctor's office and this pharmacy and this wireless provider and such and such and such, they're cumulative. And all of that serves to make me weary of more and more bills, despite working, almost getting ahead. Yeah, it's frustrating. But that doesn't mean I've lost trust in God. So that's what upset me today, is that someone saw my human side and tried to weaponize it against me and hurt my feelings, I guess, just to be perfectly honest. But it's okay to be mad and to be sad and to have mental or emotional states that are unpleasant. It's okay to be mad at God. Just as it's okay to be mad at your parents when you were kids. They still loved you, I hope. I can't speak for everybody, but I know my mom and dad did. Despite the entitled know-it-all brat that I was in retrospect. Um, I mean, you can't be mad at God without believing in Him. So, but I'm not mad at God. I'm not mad at anybody. Just weary. It's a very good word to describe things. I like that. If I had a word of the day calendar, I'd write that one on it for today. That would probably be a cool little thing to get in the habit of, is writing a single word of the day for every day. At the end of the day, decide what word describes this day best in one word. Wearisome. On the other hand, I always feel better after I crack open the Bible. And it wasn't always that way. It used to be a chore. It used to be something I didn't want to do. I had to be told. And I've read it through several times, kind of skimming it, not realizing not appreciating that there's more meaning in the words than the text says at face value. And it's a lifelong quest. I don't think anybody will ever completely understand the Bible. Even those who went through the effort and learned ancient Hebrew, ancient Aramaic, Greek, Latin, and probably several dialects of each to really understand the texts. Even still, I don't think you could understand it all and become the grand authority on the Bible. Because the Greek word for word is logos, which actually translates more to knowledge. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I'm paraphrasing, but that is more or less how Genesis begins when it's spoken in English or translated to English. So if we think about in the beginning, there was logos, knowledge, there was consciousness, there was thought, there was a observer. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and the earth was without form or void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth. I want to see that where the word is emphasized. Oh, come on. Well, take my word for it, if you will, that the word with a capital W appears in the Bible over and over and over again. And the time periods it's talking about even predate humans. This part of Genesis, before God created man, what need would there have been for words? Who's communicating with who? So it's not word in the sense of language, single words, but the word is the knowledge. That's why we have biology is the study of life. Theology, study of religion, etc. So the Greek word logos, that would be a New Testament thing, probably anything that's in Greek, which, a little over half of the New Testament was written entirely by one person, Paul. Uh, I forget how many books there actually are, but I believe half plus one of the books are attributed to Paul, at least in the canonical King James Version. Never mind things like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas, the apocryphal books of Jubilees, Jasher, Giants, Enoch, Logos, Paul the Apostle, and I'm just Googling Logos, Greek Logos. They are talking about Paul the Apostle. Wow, just imagine I got something right first time today. 14 of the 27 books in the New Testament have traditionally been attributed to Paul. So, yeah, 14 of 27, that would be 13 is half of 26, so a little better than half. Why is that significant? No. It is significant, but it's a tangential significance. But Paul is an interesting figure. If anybody has anything to say about Paul, I'd like to hear it, because regarding my childless status, it used to bother me, and I'd ask my pastor, should I have gotten somebody pregnant? Should I not have married? Did I sin by not going forth and being fruitful? Because I always thought, hey, I'm going to wait till I've got life under control. Then I'm going to get married and have children. And I didn't realize that you never reached that point. That there's no such things. At least as far as I know. Every parent I know, they're learning as they go the whole time. But my pastor told me, he's like, well, Rob, were you aware that the majority of the New Testament was written by someone like yourself that had no children? Now, Paul might have bastards. I guess I might as well. But, I mean, Paul clearly had concubines and such. Again, I mean, actually, that doesn't make... that doesn't contradict the point I'm making. But Paul went from a Roman persecutor of Christians. Now, he was Jewish, he was Roman, but he was originally a man responsible for imprisoning, probably brutalizing Christians, and so on and so on. Definitely he caused many Christians to be killed, if not murdered them himself. But on the well-known story of the road to Damascus, Jesus, who had just recently been crucified, appeared to Saul, as he was known previously, and changed everything. Changed Paul's whole MO. He quit. I mean, he saw that it was true. Like, he was fortunate enough to have an actual visit from Christ, who was dead. That is hard to fail to change your opinion about the divinity of Christ. In today's world, we don't get such clear signs, uh, lest we lose faith or not have faith. Uh, we get plenty of signs, but everything is required to rest on it. I hate to say cornerstone of faith. But I guess it works. I'm just thinking about the proverb, and the stone that the builder refused shall be the head cornerstone. But maybe that's a little more significant in modern day society than I'm giving it credit. The stone that society is refusing is faith. They're presuming science to be able to prove everything, or disprove it at least. And in doing so, they're throwing away what should be the head cornerstone, the thing that keeps the whole thing from falling in on itself. And that is faith. That is accepting that there's something greater than this mortal coil we live in, these minor inconveniences like having to come up with a few $100 extra each month. That's trivial stuff in a celestial sense or cosmic sense, or what's the adjective to describe deity? Deiteic, I guess would be deitical. I like to play with words, sue me. But once we've stopped remembering where we came from, then I don't see how life can be worth continuing. It's irrelevant if AI wipes us out or nuclear war wipes us out. If that's what happens, it happens, but it's still constrained to this physical realm, which even science agrees is only a small portion, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to space-time. The whole 3 or 4 dimensional Cartesian plane, as we've grown to understand it, extends at least into 7 dimensions, which is ironic because there are 7 levels of heaven described in the book of Enoch, and the number 7 continues to be throughout the, not just Christian or Abrahamic religions, but a significant number everywhere. And I'm just kind of rambling for the heck of it. But I was raised in a Creek society or clan. We were called the Yofala clan back then. We've since changed our name to Kibaskoki clan, in which we didn't really have a religion, but we acknowledged that we were created and there was a creator. And we hold the number 7 to be sacred, as special, in that we consider there to be 7 directions of travel. There's your 4 cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west. And then you can go up and you can go down. But the Native American people I identify with, that I, was firsthand, well, am one of, but also interacted with others of, believe in the seventh direction, which is translated where you are, but it's a journey inside yourself. It's journeying without moving. So it's exploration of consciousness, spirituality, your soul, the things inside you. And yes, a lot of Native Americans were all about some hallucinogens, and I'll neither admit nor deny that the Creek people have rituals that are similar. I will share a little bit. We don't have peyote growing here in Alabama, but it was known that peyote grew in Arizona, and there would be big pilgrimages undertaken to go and get some of this mystical cactus, from the West. Now, the Native Americans, I don't like that term, but I don't even like indigenous people. I like Creek. The Creek people understood stewardship and conservation when they harvested the peyote, which takes about 25 to 30 years to grow from seed to mature plant. They didn't just hack it up and kill it. They cut it in a special way, a U-shaped cut that would allow the roots to regrow the peyote button for the next year, often making 2 buttons where there was 1. As opposed to just running out in the desert and snatching up all the peyote buttons they could find, and like people have done since. They revered the plant. They didn't worship the plant. They worshipped, it's the closest word for it, the creator of the plant. And that's why you also hear the theme of how Indians use every part of the animal when they kill it. Which is true. To take a life from anything, there has to be some respect given to that life. So it's an homage to try to make all things with I kill, we killed, they killed, whatever, die painlessly and with purpose. I have no problem going out and shooting a dove and cooking it and eating it. But when I do that, I'm thankful for the bird, but I don't feel pleasure from killing it. But I wouldn't let it go to waste. That I consider to be blasphemy, to just destroy something like a life that God created and disregard it, to turn our nose up at this gift of life, which on the subject of turning one's nose up, I'd like to share something I wrote. I'm thinking of making it into a song, but I call it Enough's Not Enough. How we are ungrateful for all that we've received, from the dainty and graceful to the skies and the seas, from the pleasurable touch of a lover's body to the great majesty of the mountain's great peaks. Enough's not enough, and we turn our nose up at absurd luxury. We promised at the beginning, we gave a solemn oath to use and maintain all that we might claim, to be stewards of, not abusers of, consumers of, not gluttonous, the pleasures and comforts that were bestowed on us. But here we are now, desiring more of everything, because enough's not enough, and so we turn our nose up. I don't know if anybody thinks that's any good, but I like it. I think there's potential in it. And I don't pray on cameras. Anybody that's been in God Hour knows. But I do feel encouraged to pray. I'm not going to do it on camera. I don't. Something's off about that, if you ask me. Like hearing a YouTube video say, bow your head in prayer when it's a recording. It's like, nah, I'm good, but you go right ahead. And also it says in the book of Matthew not to do as the hypocrites, to pray on the street corners and in the churches. It's not the way prayer is supposed to be. It's supposed to be personal, intimate. Because God is personal and intimate. I hope I don't have to define the word intimate. It has nothing to do with sex. Sex is an intimate behavior, sure, but you can be intimate without it having any kind of erotic connotation. Intimate just means confidential and with great familiarity. I'm intimate with some of my coworkers in that I know their tastes, and if I were out getting lunch, I would know what some of them want. Like the boss will eat the weirdest, grossest shit I can find at a restaurant. That's that's how I know how to shop for her. I just ask for the grossest thing on the menu, and she does whatever she does with it. I don't know. Gets pleasure out of it somehow. But our God is intimate too. He knows everything about us, so it would behoove us to try to learn more about Him. And the easiest way to do that is to talk to Him. And that you do through prayer. And then, of course, read what He has written. Not directly with His own finger, but through the prophets and the scribes and the Levites, the Catholic Church, through Tyndale, what's his name? Is it George Tyndale? Who wrote the first King James Version Bible in 1611. Read some of God's handiwork, His prose. And you could even find proof or indication of that love for humor that God has. Because irony is a key concept or key element of comedy. And there is a lot of irony in the Bible. In particular, there's plenty of them. The one I'm thinking of is a little bit vulgar. The Bible is not a kid-friendly book or safe for kids thing to read. uh, small children. And that's a good thing because small children are innocent and they don't need a Bible to describe the horrible stuff that men have done to each other, in particular the Sodom and Gomorrah story. But to put that in detail, they've tamed down the language, and I would encourage you to read in, I think it's the book of Jasher, which is an apocryphal book. It's not considered canonical, but just to illustrate how corrupt and disgusting Sodom, the city, was, you should consider looking into the book of Jasher. I'm pretty sure it's Jasher or Jubilees, but that was a society that had totally lost its concept of right and wrong. And sadly, it's not that different from society that we live in today, where saying things like the man takes care of the house, the man leads the house, that's considered, offensive to women. To say that men work and women nurture, but it's been that way for thousands of years among all the other species, with some exceptions. The seahorse, the male seahorse, I believe, gives birth to the baby seahorses. And there are also elements where the female does the hunting. Usually it's because the father has skipped town or gotten killed, like in the case of spiders, where they're lucky just to get in, get out the door. But we're better than animals, as it is written in Scripture. While we got Genesis open, let's refer to a little bit of it. That oath I mentioned in my little poem, if you will. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Not just good, but very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. That's the end of Genesis 1. But that's how I justify saying we are better than animals. We are, PETA members might disagree, but we are given charge of the animals. We are meant to command them as needed, curb them as needed. If some population of predators gets too big, it's up to us to go kill a bunch of them off. Same with the prey. We have rampant deer here in Alabama. Like, we need more people to deer hunt for for the animals' own good, for their populations. As it is, it's almost a crisis that almost every deer you find is not fit to eat. It has some kind of parasites or bacteria and sickness. Now, I'm not a deer hunter. I personally don't care to clean, gut, bleed, not in that order, something that big. It's not high on my to-do list. It's not something I'm against doing, but I would much prefer to deal with squirrels, rabbits, birds, and fish to get my meals and vegetables. And never had a plant cause me to, retch because it stinks so bad because of its intestinal tract and so on. I don't have that problem with plants. But I'm not a vegetarian. I'm almost exclusively carnivore. In any case, I'm off tomorrow, so I have no immediate need to go to sleep. So why not hit Isaiah 44 in the interim, in the meantime? And I believe that's what I'm going to do, unless there's anything in the chat that anybody would like to say or ask or whatever. By all means, free to express any point of view. This is not a place of judgment. I'll be the first to admit that I can't throw stones because my house is made of glass. I'm a retired heroin addict, amongst many other things. So don't fear judgment from this guy. I'm not going to elaborate on any of my other sins, but I certainly wouldn't be able to list them all. But the wonderful thing is, it's okay. They've been counted, they've been recorded, but they've also been pardoned. And that's a good feeling. It's a very, very good deal for the sinner. But it requires faith, and genuine faith. That's the hard part. And I struggled with it. Believe me, it is hard to believe in something that you cannot test for or prove or compare results with somebody else. In fact, you may often get completely different results if you do scientific method testing on God. Some have said that the soul is quantifiable, that it has material substance, and they've done experiments to try to prove that. Some that are pretty convincing, actually. There was a person sealed in a airtight, container who was at death's door already, and had donated herself to the experiment for science. But somehow that sealed vessel got a little bit lighter after the person inside died. It lost a little bit of mass somehow, just a tiny bit, and it could just be an error in the, you know, measurement, the calibration, whatever. But I don't personally believe the soul has mass. If it did, we'd be able to see heaven, or all of these trillions probably by now of souls that have ever existed, to say nothing of animals and maybe even non-animals that may or may not have souls, which is another good talking point for a Christian platform, I guess. I don't want to call this a podcast. I don't like that word, podcast. I mean, it's just designed to rhyme with broadcast and iPod, back when we had iPods. Such a branded, trendy word. I'd be surprised if Apple didn't own the rights to the word podcast. In any case, what was I bitching about? Well, faith above all, and coming to terms with believing in something that you can't demonstrate to others. You know, here, this is my friend Jesus. He's God, but he's also the Son of God, and also the Holy Ghost came from him after he died, but he's immortal. So, I mean, good Lord, it's, well, and near impossible to explain Christianity or any religion. And that's where you let faith handle it, you know? There's a lot of things we don't need to know the answer to. And that's been my problem, is I always wanted to know more. Learn it all. Learn everything there is to know. So I created this quote. I know many things, but I can learn great many more. Could also say it as, while I can teach many things, I can be taught far many more. Anyway, let us continue with Isaiah chapter 44. I'm here reading it kind of as I go on my diatribe about this and that and the other. Isaiah 44 verse 1, King James Version, as is my wont. Yet now hear, O Jacob my servant, and Israel whom I have chosen. Let me pause for a minute to clarify that. There are 12 tribes of Israel. I cannot name them all, but 10 of them are referenced as Israel. The 2 remaining tribes are referred to as Jacob. Now, together they all make Judah and Judaism, the Jewish people. But Israel has become reflective of the entire nation, the entire religion. So within those tribes, they each had their own duties, as it were, or differences. I wouldn't necessarily call it duties, but each tribe kept to itself for the most part. I mean, they mingled with each other, they traded with each other, they weren't at war with each other. I mean, there were sometimes, they had feuds and spats and arguments. Uh, but it's kind of like the states here in America. Uh, we're divided into regions. We've got us Alabamians and the other redneck people. And nearby we've got the Yankees that live in Florida, which is the southernmost Yankee state. And then we got the rest of the country folk that live in Tennessee, Georgia, Carolinas, and a little bit in Louisiana, of course, Mississippi, even Arkansas, and but it gets kind of sketchy around Ohio. And that's why we call them Midwestern, even though they're on the eastern side of the United States. And they're entirely different from the group that extends from California up through Washington State. And they talk different, they believe different things, they have different laws. But when it comes down to it, we're all American. And we would fight for each other if something threatened us from outside. So I guess that's a parallel to draw between the 12 tribes of Judaism, often referred to as just the 12 tribes of Israel, but that's kind of a misnomer, as I explained. And I believe those two tribes are Jacob and Benjamin that make up the non-Israel tribes. But the point I was getting to is, of those 12 tribes, there's one in particular called Levi that were tasked with maintaining the temples. They were the priests, and not just the priests, but the groundskeepers for the temples and so on. So they had a special duty. But all these tribes were formed by one patriarch, whose name coincidentally is the name of the tribe: Jacob, Israel, Benjamin, Levi, and there's a bunch that I just can't remember the names of. I'm not a Jewish person. I've only met 3 or 4 Jewish people that I know were Jewish. I dated 2 Jewish girls. One spoke ancient Hebrew, and I wish I had paid more attention to her. Now that I'm older, I could have learned a lot from her, but hindsight's 2020. In any case, these 12 tribes were descended from one man who was originally named Abram, later to be known as Abraham, which in ancient Hebrew indicates friendship, as I understand it, or rather, Abram means friend, and Ham means God, or maybe it's the other way around, but in any case, Abraham translates to friend of God. On this, there can be no debate, to quote Seinfeld. And then Abraham begat Isaac when Sarah, his wife, was really old, like 100 or maybe even older, and named the boy Isaac because she laughed at the concept of having a child, and Isaac translates to laughter in Hebrew. And then we get into Joseph later on down the road quite a bit. We had a son named Jacob. If I'm getting my Bible chronology and history correct, Jacob had a coat that was made of many colors, and he was very proud of it. And his brothers were very jealous and did not like him. And one day they sold him into slavery. And I can't remember who, was it to the Babylonians or Egyptians? It's probably Egypt. Sold him as a slave to Egypt. And he prospered as a slave and became well liked and well respected, and held a high office in Egypt, away from his home people, his home language, his home religion. And then he came back to his brothers who had sold him into slavery. And you can imagine the terror when he comes back with command of armies. The Pharaoh is his personal friend or business relation or whatever you want to call it, his boss. Like, it's one of the inner circle. The Pharaoh, who considers himself to be a god. You know, Jacob didn't believe that, but he was a man of immense power. Any Pharaoh would be. So then he goes back to his brothers and forgives them. Thanks them, actually. For if they had not done that, he would have been just a passing note in history. A unliked, vain, proud brother that thought he was better than his other brothers. But he lived, and his brothers did, and they made up. And I believe that would be the 12 founding tribes there. But I'm not a preacher. I didn't go to school for any of this. I've just been reading this book for the last 40 years or so. So verse 1, chapter 44 again. Yet now hear, O Jacob my servant, and Israel whom I have chosen. There's a distinction there. Jacob is the servant. Jacob is referred to as my servant by God, but Israel is referred to as whom I have chosen. Thus saith the Lord that made thee, and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob my servant, and thou, Jezreel, whom I have chosen. Again, a differentiation by God. For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. I will pour my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring, and they shall spring up as among the grass, as willows by the watercourses. One shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord, and surname himself by the name of Israel. This is discussing how the houses, the tribes became more than one person, all of Jacobs will call themselves by the surname Jacob, and so on with presumably everybody, every tribe, but Israel definitely is specified right there. Verse 6. Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. And who, as I, shall call, and shall declare it, and set in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people, and the things that are coming, and shall come, let them shew unto them. Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God. I know not any. There's that sense of humor of God. You see any other gods? It's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Is there a God beside me? Yeah, there is no God. I know not any. Except himself. I mean, one doesn't go of all the people I know. I know me, and, you know, so God's not going to recognize himself as one of the gods when he is the only God. Anyway, vanity of idols. Verse 9. They that make a graven image are all of them vanity, and their delectable things shall not profit. And they are their own witnesses. They see not nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who hath formed a god, or molten a graven image, that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen, they are of men. Let them all be gathered together. Let them stand up, yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. Like, what is the tendency to make idols to, you know, not just in the Abrahamic religions, but like the Romans and the Greeks and the Egyptians, and I guess all religions for the most part, want to make something tangible and worship. And to a lot of degree, Christianity's guilty of it too. I mean, I've seen people that were so enamored by the crucifix on their neck or the Bible they held that I felt like they were not giving God all of the praise that, like, they believed that little piece of gold around their neck could do things, magic things, or the book. And now I thought the same thing when I was about 6 years old. I was home alone. Yeah, my parents weren't perfect. But all I had to protect myself with was the Bible. I remember carrying the Bible around with me when I got scared. It got late and they weren't home. My dad was an alcoholic and party all night. My mom would have to put up with it, but I remember grabbing a Bible to comfort myself. But I was a kid. It's like kids carry blankets around with them for security. Make no mistake, a Bible is simply a book. The actual physical Bible is the content in the Bible that is holy, whether it be in English or not. I mean, they print them by the billions and they sell them for a huge profit. one could argue that the book, the published Bible, is evil if it was used for evil purposes to sell people Bibles. Like in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? These big Dan Teague says, sales. Or sales, Mr. Whatever. And what do I sell? The truth. Every blessed word of it. And let me tell you, there's good money in it too. Please tell me, if you're watching this, you're aware of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, the movie, and how it correlates with the Odyssey. And portrays human nature in almost a fable or mythological context of how pride and vanity, deceit are key elements through the film. And George Clooney's constantly with my hair, and that treasure they want to get. Anyway, I digress. The smith, this is verse 12, the smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioneth it with hammers, and worketh it with the strength of his arms. Yea, he is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh no water, and is faint. The carpenter stretcheth out his rule, he marketh it out with a line, he fitteth it with planes, and he marketh it out with the compass, and maketh it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house. He heweth him down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak, which he strengtheneth for himself among the trees of the forest. He planteth an ash, and the rain doth nourish it. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he will take thereof and warm himself. Yea, he kindleth it, and baketh bread. Yea, he maketh a god, and worshippeth it. He maketh it a graven image, and falleth down thereto. He burneth part thereof in the fire, with part thereof he eateth flesh. He roasteth roast, and is satisfied. Yea, he warmeth himself, and saith, Aha, I am warm, I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down upon it, and worshippeth it, and prayeth unto it, and saith, Deliver me, for thou art my God. This is the Lord exclaiming, why? Why would you make something and then worship it? Like, if you made it, you have power over it. Like, but more importantly, just stop worshiping the one that made you. You got it backwards. It's the Creator that needs to be worshipped. If anything, that graven idol should be worshiping the man that built it. Can't think of any statues of gods that exist today. I was sure that in the Pantheon in Rome that there's plenty of them. But those gods should be worshiping the sculptors, not the other way around. Verse 18. They have not known nor understood, for he hath shut their eyes, that they cannot see, and their hearts, that they cannot understand. It's interesting that God uses the term he, pronoun he, without any direct explanation of who he is. They have not known nor understood, for he hath shut their eyes, and they cannot see, and their hearts that they cannot understand. And this is a translation thing, but it was for a very long time assumed or common knowledge that the heart is where understanding came from, not the brain. Now God knows better, and we're just now starting to figure out how wrong we have been about the brain. But the translation would naturally follow in this time that their hearts don't understand. And none considereth in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burned part of it in the fire, yea, also I have baked bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh and eaten it. And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? He feedeth on ashes. A deceived heart hath turned him aside, that he cannot deliver his soul, nor save. Is there not a lie in my right hand? I think we know who he is. Now, God references the right hand, that he feedeth on ashes. A deceived heart hath turned him aside. His heart, his ability to think and know, as it was assumed, hath turned him aside. His heart told him no, no. And then prevented him from wondering if this thing in my right hand. Now, the word right is not just the opposite of left, it's also the opposite of wrong. That would be homonym. It's not. But there's a reason for that I've come to understand, the etymology, that right-handedness was considered to be right-heartedness. You extend your right hand to people to shake, to give them a welcome, to be good, polite. You don't ever offer somebody your left hand. And yes, it's true that some cultures have used the left hand for unsavory duties. Pardon the pun, duty. But yes, the left hand was considered to be not only wrong, but filthy. So to offer somebody your left hand would be to say, here, I'll make it a little less forward. I just picked my nose, but how are you doing? Shake? In any case, the right and the wrong, there's a whole thing about right and wrong, right and left, in the videos if you want to watch it. But we see a reference to a deceiver. We see a reference to absurdity, that people are putting in honest to God effort, hard work, growing this tree and sweating and toiling over it, only to worship it when they're done. Like, this is mystifying God, like literally. There are no mysteries to God, but he's like, I give you free will. This is what you decide to do, is to go break your back, bust your ass looking for the best tree you can find. Use part of that tree to make a fire and keep yourself warm and cook something to eat on part of it. But then you take the rest of it and you make a statue, and then you throw yourself down at it and worship it and say, you piece of tree stump, I worship you. You are my God. God's, can you imagine how God is like? Like if that were my son, working and building something with his own hands, and then finally finishing it and going, that's my God right there. That right there, that thing I made, that's the most that powerful thing in the universe. It it made you and me, and therefore I'm going to worship it. I'm going to lay my head down at its feet, and I'm going to say all these holy words, and like, I think it'd be time to have that kid's marbles counted, or yet we do it every day. Humans, that is. And the idols that we worship today aren't quite so distinct as tree stumps or even images, but they are there. If you want to see an image, if you're using an iPhone, have a look at, oh goodness, have a look at that image. I mean, that's where it came from. The apple represents original sin. Now, I don't know if Steve Jobs intentionally put the bitten apple logo on there to represent sin, but certainly that bitten apple has become an icon and a household name, and indeed in many cases considered a status symbol to have an apple versus whatever the Android logo is. But make no mistake, regardless of whatever phone or technology or whatever it is that is keeping your attention, stock market, what have you, there are plenty of graven images to go around. The one of Benjamin Franklin on that piece of green cloth is one I see a lot of people doing their best to hoard as many as they can, which is a form of worship, reverence, desirability, saying this is what I need more than anything, is these green pieces of paper or cloth / paper. They hold the key to happiness and success and everything I might ever want. I can get with these green pieces of cloth. which isn't true, I've found. I used to think it was, but thankfully I don't have money pouring out, as my mother would say, up to my gills in money. Because as it is written, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than a rich man to pass through the gates of heaven. Money distracts you from God, and it focuses you on fleshly pleasure. Let the universe rejoice. Most positive thing I've heard said in Isaiah so far. 21. Remember these, O Jacob and Israel, for thou art my servant. I have formed thee, thou art my servant. O Israel, thou shalt not be forgotten of me. I have blotted out as a thick cloud thy transgressions, and as a cloud thy sins. Return unto me, for I have redeemed thee. Sing, O ye heavens, for the Lord hath done it. Shout, ye lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, ye mountains, O forest, and every tree therein. For the Lord hath redeemed Jacob, and glorified himself in Israel. The choice of Cyrus. Now, this is kind of intriguing to me because last time I saw Cyrus referenced was in the book of Daniel. Cyrus succeeded or captured one or the other, King Nebuchadnezzar. Thus saith the Lord thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, that spreadeth abroad the earth by myself, that frustrateth the tokens of the liars, and maketh diviners mad, that turneth wise men backward, and maketh their knowledge foolish, that confirmeth the word of his servant, and performeth the counsel of his messengers, that saith to Jerusalem, thou shalt be inhabited, and to the cities of Judah, ye shall be built, and I will raise up the decayed places thereof, that saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up thy rivers, that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. Now, there's a little pronoun confusion going on in there. That saith to the deep, be dry, and I'll dry up thy rivers. That's easy enough. But that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. Now, I'm not going to opine the actual original text here. But it's looking like Cyrus is trying to be God, trying to at least convince others that he is God. Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden to subdue nations before him. Mm. But that's Isaiah 45. We're not going to do that tonight. I'm tired. I'm going to make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm going to call it a night. Thank you to any that chanced upon this platform and pause to have a listen. God bless you all. Stay safe. If there's anything I can do, admin@godhour.org is always available to take prayer requests and anything else that you might want to talk about, whether it be to criticize me. I welcome criticism. It helps me become a better person. I welcome correction. It helps me to become a wiser person. And I welcome debate. Not argument, but, debate on the grounds of this is my point and this is how I came to that conclusion. Not, as I so often see, people's argument for there being no God is that I'm stupid, therefore there's no God. Like, you're stupid, you believe in God, that kind of thing. Like, how does that outrule God? Well, you can't see God. Okay, that's actually a good enough reason to say God doesn't exist, but it's easily countered by, yeah, but you also don't see the air, and we know it exists. Oxygen, you can't see oxygen, but we know without it we die. So I welcome those kind of things. But if you need help with something drug addiction related, I think I could probably be of some assistance in that regard. Anything except child rearing, I bet I could give you a educated opinion on. So, what's on anybody's mind? It looks like somebody just joined the stream. I don't want to kill it if somebody just came in. It looks like they left. That's okay, because we are wrapping up for the night. Thank you all. It's the participation that, whether it's agreement or disagreement, that gives me the motivation to continue to provide content. And it's not the attention, but it's knowing that I haven't been wasting my time, that somebody has come across something, and hopefully for the better. There's that indicator one more time. Hello, if you just joined. We've already read the scripture and talked about it, but if you have anything to add, go ahead and do it now. Otherwise, we are concluding God Hour Live. Here's looking at you, kid. See y'all soon.